Hello, our lovely people. Welcome back to episode 3 of our podcast.
Hey.
Hi guys.
So, today's topic is going to be about parenting, not how we will parent, because we're not going to worry about that for a while, but how we were raised by our parents or guardians. So, for a quick debrief, there are 4 parenting style types that we're going to focus on today. So, one of them is called authoritarian parenting style. So, that basically focuses on imposing authority on children without any exception. So, like, your parent or guardian makes the rules and enforces the consequences without, like, regard to the child's opinion. They may use punishments instead of discipline, and there's a higher risk of the child developing self esteem problems because their opinions aren't valued. The second one is called authoritative. These two are kind of confusing because it sounds like the same word. But authoritative is basically like the ideal parenting style. So your parent or guardian would have rules and they also use consequences, but they take the opinion of the child into account. So they invest more time and energy into preventing behavior problems before they start. They use positive discipline strategies to reinforce good behavior. And the child tends to be self disciplined and think about themselves in terms of like how to control behavior and emotions. The next one is permissive. So this is the lenient parent or guardian, and they only step in when there's a severe issue. Otherwise, it's like all Gucci. So usually they take on more of a friend role than a parent role, and often they encourage their child to talk to them about their issues, but they don't typically put much effort into discouraging poor choices or behavior. So this is kind of like the fun mom type thing, like in the movies where it's like the mom is like the best friend, is the cool mom,
Mean Girls.
like Mean
Mm,
Girls, for example. And then the last one is uninvolved. So they tend to have little knowledge about what their child is doing. So the child may not receive much guidance, nurturing, or parental attention. They expect the child to raise themselves. They don't devote much time or energy to meeting the child's basic needs. And sometimes this is just because the parent or guardian is overwhelmed with other problems like work, bills, household duties. And the children will is likely to struggle with self-esteem, tend to perform poorly in school, and show behavior problems and rank low in happiness because they don't have like the guidance and nurturing that is critical to child development. So let's get into it.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is what parenting styles did our parents or grandparents have raising us, like likes and dislikes. Shanice wants to go first.
Yes, I will. So my parents had more of an authoritative style of parenting. So, for instance, if you go based off of the definition that Jadine gave earlier, they focus on imposing authority. Ooh, no, wrong definition. They have rules and they use consequences, but they'll take their children's opinions into account. Little less on that last part, but they still did. Um, they invest time and energy into preventing behavioral problems before they start. I wouldn't necessarily say that my parents did that, but they corrected as soon as they noticed it. So they nipped it in the
Mhm.
bud before it even became a problem.
Mhm.
Use positive discipline to strategies to reinforce good behavior. Absolutely. That's why I'm who I am today. And the child has to be self-disciplined and think for themselves. Yes, I became very independent because of how they raised me. What I like about it is they didn't necessarily treat me like a child in terms of, when your parents tell you to don't do something, but then they don't tell you why, or they say do as your parents say and not as your parents do. Yeah, no, they didn't really do that with my brother and I because we were very inquisitive and I am very stubborn. So if you tell me something, you have to tell me the reason behind it. Otherwise, I'm not going to fully understand it and I'll keep doing it. So we built a connection based off the fact that they had to, give me a reason. So we had mutual understanding. Um, Yeah, basically that. Dislikes. I don't know if this fits into the type of parenting style they had, or if it's just because we were Trinidadian. Um, they don't
Probably
like to
the
take. Yeah,
second.
probably the latter. Um, accountability. Yeah, no, they
Hmm.
didn't know what that was. But of course, me being me, I would guilt trip them until they just had to start taking it. Like they would admit to themselves, but never out loud. No. Um, I would say that y'all didn't love me. I would bawl. I would cry. I would like call for my dead grandmother. Yeah, dramatics. So guilt trip them.
No, it's not. You're just a Gemini.
Yeah. So they eventually started to take the accountability for like if they were in the wrong, which to be honest was not often, but I milked it when they were.
They're tired of your shit.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that was mine. Judy, how about you?
For me, it was a mix of authoritarian and authoritative. So like I had freedom in terms of like, if I wanted to go out with my friends, she would say sure. And I don't know, like small shit like that. And she wasn't harsh with anything like discipline or like speaking at us, like at me and my sister when we were younger. And she always made sure I was good with whatever I needed. So like money if I want to go out, transportation, schoolwork, stuff like that. So like her authoritarian side is I guess like a mild spectrum of it. Um but there wasn't a lot of open communication and kind of the same with Shanice about like the accountability. She basically did the thing where like if she felt bad, she would come back to me and like tell me dinner's ready. But like there was no discussion about whatever happened before that. Yeah, and then her authoritative side was basically like my childhood. So yeah, what about you?
So mine was a mix of authoritative and permissive. So what I liked about it was I was allowed to do, for the most part, a lot of things. I was allowed to go out. I was allowed to, like stay up past. Like I didn't have a curfew. I didn't have a bedtime. I was allowed to like eat what I wanted. like it was.
Mm-hmm.
It was. I wasn't like, oh, you can only eat at dinner time and lunchtime, and you can't go in the fridge. Like it was never like that.
Yeah.
So pretty permissive, like lenient from that side. From dislikes, it was just like lack of giving. There's a lot, but there's a lack of giving me space and time. So like now, so like I mean, they were immigrants, so I don't blame them.
So next we're gonna talk about the pros and cons of the parenting styles that we are raised with. So JD, you can go first.
Pro, I had a litty childhood, okay, and young adolescence like phase, like elementary school. Because we did a lot of activities. I know of adventures we would go on, like family, like camping and vacations and stuff, but I was kind of too young to reminisce about that now since everyone was basically older than me and they went on with their lives, so that stopped very early and I didn't really get to experience that. But that's okay. She allowed me to go out with my friends, have fun, birthday parties every year, even now. So my childhood was really fun in terms of like activities and games and stuff like that. Like me and my sister had the PlayStation, probably like all three of them. We had the Wii, had Xbox, had all the games. It was fun. The cons is that again, like the discussion and opinion part, her authoritarian side. So I didn't like receive punishment or bad consequences, but I always had to ask why for certain things. Like I don't know, just be like, oh, can I do this and this with my friends? And then it wouldn't be like out of the ordinary. And then she would say no, and I'd be like, okay, like why not? But I never really got the explanation. So yeah, I never really understood like why it was because we didn't have that like environment of discussion. But that was more when I got older, like high school ish, or maybe even like grade eight high school. And still even now sometimes. So yeah. How about you, Shani?
For me, the pros will they allowed me to make mistakes on my own. Like they would know whatever I did, I was gonna fuck up, but they'll still let me do it. So that way, I learned from my own mistakes and I built my common sense, which a lot of people did not do, and it shows. But besides that, their parenting style is what I used to like was the norm. Like I didn't know that there were a bunch of different parenting styles until I got older, or
Mm-hmm.
as you start to see your friends' parents interact with them. So
Mm-hmm.
to me, everything was great. I mean, still looking back on it now, everything was great. Um, Communication with that was one thing that was kind of difficult with me and my mom because we essentially the same persons. We used to butt heads a lot, but
Literally,
we worked through
Capricorn.
that.
Wait, are both is you and your mom the same sign?
No, I have no clue what her
Mm,
sign is. I don't know nobody else sign but me
crying.
and my
Yeah, me
brother.
and my mom are both Capricorns, and Capricorns are, the,
My mother is just my mother, and then she made me just like her, and then wonders why I behave like this
she said
because
copy
of
paste.
you. So yeah, to be honest, I had a really good childhood. We used to go on a lot of family vacations to make good memories, so we could still, look back on those, reminisce on
Mm-hmm.
those. I do remember having like a lot of family meetings, so the we always used to have like open conversations and stuff like that. So, to be honest, nothing. That it was great. Cons about it. I wouldn't really say I wouldn't call these cons too much, but nothing except the mentality of the adult is always right. But they kind of got out of that now that I'm older, and I'm not sure if that just stemmed again from the Trinidadian culture or the fact of
I
the kind
think
of
it's
parents.
dramatic and
Hmm?
No, honestly, it's a Caribbean thing and a generational thing. So it's like, what do you,
Yeah,
is that a double-edged sword? Whatever it is. But
yeah.
yeah,
So
that's how they were raised, not to question.
yeah, not to question the adult or but as a child, to be honest, that never really considered me because like my family in Trinidad, top tier was great. When I moved up here, however, fuck no, absolutely not. I through that parenting is right completely like the adults is always right completely out the window. My favorite thing is I said what I said and I meant what I meant. Um, just because you're older doesn't mean you get to escape that. And they always used to be like, oh gosh, because it kind of used to start conflicts. And they're not really, they're confrontational, but they don't want to be confrontational with like their family or like, you know, relatives. But then they realize I am strong headed and strong willed. And if I said I am right, and you know I am right, I don't care if the adult wants to be right or if they want y'all to, discipline me. It's not gonna happen. So they kind of got out of that because I am stubborn and I'll stop calling them because we don't live in the same country and they miss me too much. I'm the baby. So if they want to speak to me, they had to get out of that. Damn, I'm a low key manipulative. But yeah, they had to get out of that.
That's setting the boundaries because you're not a child anymore.
Yeah. Um So yeah, that was the only con, but that wasn't really childhood con. That was kind of more when I was 17, 18.
Yeah.
That's about it.
so how did that impact you as a child growing up, Jay?
So for me, pretty much mentioned before, like I never really understood why my mom would say no, because I was a good kid, doing good in school. I wasn't misbehaving. I was chilling hard. Cause I never really did much in terms of like chilling with friends or certain activities. Even till now, like the most I'm doing is going to somebody's house or like going out to eat. I've basically been doing that since like elementary school. So to me, it seemed unfair as to why I couldn't do certain things that like weren't out of the ordinary when I wasn't really doing anything wrong. And some stuff like I could see now, but yeah, other stuff not really. So now I basically have to like push for that discussion to get answers. And I was pretty much like a why child. I was that child who was like, why, for what, why? You know, I need explanations because I'm a curious child. And I think it's safe to say for us three, you know, we weren't, we had common sense from a young age. So I always needed to like know answers because shit, that's how we were raised. So yeah, now I have to push for that discussion and like to give opinions, to have open dialogue. So now that even like plays into my other types of relationships, like friendships and stuff, I need dialogue. I need communication. If you're not communicating with me, I'm not having it, bro. That could be like going out. That's part of the reason why I don't plan shit no more. Because people don't be communicating. That's for conflict of any sort. I need to like talk it out.
For me, it was great because I always had independence when I wanted it, like for the most part. You know, I always used to be outside, always with my friends. If I asked to go anywhere, for just like fellow background, I was the good friend. I mean, technically, I still am the good friend. Like my friends' parents wouldn't let them go out if I wasn't going, so I
Mm-hmm.
always had a great time, like living my best life. Um, but I could always go to them when I needed them. Like the open dialogue, once we went to therapy, was there. So, like, it was great. However, it screwed me up slightly because now I expect everyone else to be the same. And when they aren't, it's very irritating and frustrating. And I don't mean
Like
like everybody,
independent?
sorry,
You mean independent?
not only independent, I mean, we're only 21, but some form of independence. Yes. Because am I all the way independent? No. No, I am not, and I will not be until I graduate, right? So, like, you know, university.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in terms of like common sense, figuring shit out on your own, like if you have like context clues, I don't know if y'all skip that part of schooling. Like a lot of people, for some reason, can't use context clues. Like they, and it's not to say like it's the most basic context clues. Like I can't give an example. No, it's nothing intricate where you need to, you know, solve it to figure it out, but like basic shit.
Oh, like just take a moment, basically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Like if you
shit
gave
like
yourself
that.
like 2 extra seconds, you would figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um
Did Lauren taught actually context clues at school? I don't remember.
I got taught context clues in school.
Me too.
It like was like an English thing. I learned that in English, like for literature.
No, like
Yeah,
yeah.
I got it for literature as well. But in general, in every subject. Because
Mm.
my teachers never used to like to tell us things outright. You just have to figure it out.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm accustomed to having to figure things out.
Like indirectly. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why I get very frustrated and get very irritated very quickly with a lot of people. Because I don't feel like I need to be explaining every single thing. Like I
Yeah,
already
because
expect you to know it.
yeah, it's the thing where you have to learn basically like people only know what they know. I don't remember the saying, but it's something like, oh, people will only like do with what they know, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then not everyone has the parental guidance that they need to like figure shit out by themselves or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why my friend group is very small. Because I can't deal with that. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
But besides that, I mean, it's great now. Like all of their parenting, not all narcissistic, but they did a great job with me. I mean, my brother too. But like, shit, we have some things we need to work on.
Mm-hmm.
However, like the relationship that I now have with my parents, also distance helped. You know, we don't
Ooh,
live.
yeah.
Yeah, distance was possibly the best thing to ever happen to us. But now I call them every day, and if I don't call them, they get worried, and I call them, and they call me. We
Mm-hmm.
talk like
Yeah.
hours about everything.
Yeah. To add on
Now
that,
they're my
yeah,
FP.
you're right about the independence because yeah, basically, like me and my mom had that talk the other day. She was like, I don't really have like curfew for you or nothing. Just, you know, stay in contact. I'm like, you're right, basically. But like, that's basically what she's always The most curfew thing I had was just like, don't come home too late, basically. And then if you're out late past like a certain time, then just like let me know. But like come home. I've stayed out walking with Dee until 4 in the morning. And
Yeah.
come home and she doesn't really care. Or like I've been out kind of far, coming home till like 2 in the morning. She didn't really care. And this is like high school years, so yeah. And then the independence or the distance thing, because ever since I moved away for school, that's kind of where the dialogue is better because it is kind of like a sort of mutual understanding of your independence and your maturity.
Yeah.
Yeah. You right.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. D?
For me, since they're pretty lenient, I have bad habits. I don't know my food intake. What I eat is not good, and that's really reflecting now. Because they would buy food like chips and like, stuff like that, and so I grew up eating stuff like that. So now it's just like very common that you still eat it. My sleep schedule, like growing up, I didn't have a curfew. It wasn't like you had to be in bed by 8. It was never like that. It's like when you tired, go sleep, bitch. Like it
I know.
was never that serious. Also now, like, since growing up I didn't get a lot of space and time to myself. Now it's like kind of good and bad. Like now I know to give myself space and time, but when I do, like I tend to push them away. Like everyone away, and that's like not good. So it's like that's kind of an issue, but I'm getting better at giving myself space and time. I think but that happened in high school. I think everyone took notice of that.
Oh yeah.
Stop coming to school.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I agree with what you guys said.
So you basically just have to find the balance between.
Yeah, because I'm the type of bitch that will pack up and leave and not say anything.
So
I've
ha.
done.
But at the same time, don't blame you. I wouldn't do the exact same. I'd at least let you know, leave. I'd have nothing to it.
Other than that, I agree with what y'all said. There's a lot of things that like just too much to mention, but those are two main things.
Yeah, otherwise this episode will be 3 hours long.
Honestly, I'll admit, like I had a pretty good childhood. Like I had fun, I had friends, I was allowed to do what I wanted. So it wasn't
Okay,
like
so that's like a thing we all have in common.
yeah.
Our parents allowed us to be kids when we needed. So we have reached the end of this episode and we hope y'all enjoyed it. So to keep up with our podcast, be sure to follow us on our Instagram at di4tc_, where all of our other social medias are linked in our bio. For more episodes, check us out and subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, SoundCloud, and or wherever else you listen to your podcasts. And we will talk to y'all in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.